Dr. O, the jobs report came in today, and I mean, objectively, it was sizzling hot. I mean, we were looking at some anticipatory data last night. You and I were just having a conversation, a casual conversation. I think Morningstar had a sort of a prediction of 125,000, and they were thinking maybe slightly off of a target of 151,000. I think all in, the jobs report came in at 228,000 for the month of March. Somewhat surprising, but I don't know. Maybe not to you.
So let's put it this way. Surprising. The headline number was surprising, right?
The size of it. I mean, the fact that it beat the estimate by the amount that it did.
That's right. But I would not call it sizzling hot.
Oh, okay.
I would not call it sizzling hot.
Well, I did. So you're just saying that you wouldn't call it sizzling hot?
I would not. You did, and I would not call it sizzling hot. And the reason I would not call it sizzling hot is, well, first of all, employment numbers for January were revised down.
And some January numbers sneaked into the March report?
No. I'm saying January numbers were revised down. February numbers were revised down as well. And that means the 3-month average, right, was lower than it was a month ago. It was down to 152. If you take out 152 compared to 184 for total non-farm, and then for total private, it was down to 135 from 161. I did a talk yesterday where I told people, look, it's good to take all of the data together, and that you cannot possibly look at just one data point from one data source and make any kind of conclusions about anything, when you're trying to understand the economy and where it's headed. And this applies today, right? The labor market is still cooling. It's not crashing, but it's cooling. Mm-hmm. The 228 number is comfort that it's not crashing. Mm-hmm. It does not mean it's accelerating or sizzling hot. The labor market, you had a small increase in labor force participation, which was good. So you have more, the hiring rate hasn't really moved very much. Still very low, at a 10-year low. The layoff rate, still pretty flat, right? Low, thank God, right? The unemployment rate slightly higher at 4.2%. Part of that is the increase in the labor force. Mm-hmm. But things are not necessarily improving. This might have been the last hurrah in the labor market, because remember, this jobs report came before the massive drop in stock prices. Mm-hmm. Remember, we talked about on the show, but also in the Center Square column, the concept, the fact that when financial wealth drops, people spend less due to what we call a negative wealth effect. And so, I don't know how much your stock portfolio fell in the last few days. Most of my phone was ringing off the hook yesterday, mm-hmm. because people were worried and were wondering, mm-hmm. what is going on.
Yep.
And did I do the right thing? Mm-hmm. And I tell people, look, you're in it now. You might as well hold.
Yeah, right.
And I don't give investment advice. Okay.
Thank goodness for that.
I don't give investment advice. All I'm here to do is tell you about what's going on in the economy and what you should be expecting going forward. The economy is slowing. Okay. The economy is slowing. The tariff shock is going to have an impact. It's already having an impact. Mm-hmm. And of course, you're going to see it in the months ahead. Yeah. And so I think people should know that and should be prepared for that. I think people kind of know it instinctively already know. Consumer confidence is low. The business confidence is very low. And so, this was a good report. It was reassuring. Mm-hmm. It was reassuring, but it still hasn't been able to stop the bleeding. You're just looking at the market today. It's not looking great.
It's not been a happy day for people in the market. So inside of that report, I mean, I think it's worthwhile, talking about what role government jobs played in that. You and I have talked over the past couple of years about the jobs report being influenced. And I'm the one who beats the drum on this. You know, you're not you, but I mean, we had, significant job. I'm calling a timeout. Let me finish my thought. We had some job growth during the previous administration that was perhaps influenced by a lot of government spending and a lot of government job creation. This job report, despite the fact that it came in at 228, which again, that's a number for now. It probably will be revised. But that actually showed a decline of 4,000 jobs in March, after 11,000 federal jobs in February. So, I mean, in terms of like the number of jobs that are actually being taken out of the federal government and the way that's being reported, you would think that there's like this mass hemorrhaging. Like, I believe it was like the Clinton administration, and like 400,000 federal workers were let go in the Clinton tenure. This is, this would be, a 2-month decline of only 15,000 jobs so far. What factor is that in any of the considerations around employment at this point?
Well, look, if you have
or is it so inconsequential that it's not statistically relevant at this point?
You got 3 million federal government employees, right?
Somewhere between 2 and 3 million. Yes.
Right. That's the number as of March 2025. So you got 3 million government employees, federal government employees. You got 23.6 million total government employees between state, local, and federal government.
Mm-hmm.
And so far we've seen 50,000. And again, I don't want to dismiss this because I don't think it should be dismissed. And the reason I don't think it should be dismissed is that ultimately government employment is people, it's families, it's, and those people take those dollars and they spend them into the economy. And those dollars, are not spent in a vacuum. They get spent on goods and services that private sector business owners also benefit from. And so we have to make the point that, the economy is this big circle. When it's spent, it's got to be produced somewhere, and it's employing private sector workers too, mm-hmm. because it's spent at a private sector business somewhere. So I think
that's a factor of the economy.
Exactly. I think it's important to say that, and that if you cut government jobs, you're essentially shrinking aggregate demand. Now, of course, there are some people that will say, look, it depends on the type of government jobs. It depends on the types of things that these people were doing.
Of course,
where they, right. And so, and there's this, and I'm not going to go into that. But bottom line is we're at a time where the economy is strong, was strong, but slowing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Households were in a good position before kind of the mayhem that's happened in the past few days. And so we're okay for now. But, if that continues, if you start to see layoffs increase, and I'm not just talking about the government sector, I'm talking about the whole economy. If we start to see layoffs start to increase, then it's a problem. It's a problem it's a problem for families. And we talked about this before. The economy is people. It's people, it's families. It's important that those families have the ability to take care of themselves, to house themselves and clothe themselves and continue, to contribute to the whole, to society and the world we live in. And so the economy is people. It's a collection of people and their activity. And so I think, it's not, we should not dismiss this what's going on. The other thing is, look, the reality for that, I think I hear this argument a lot, and I think people need to hear this. The reality is government employment share, government as a share of total employment has been on a decline mm-hmm. for years, for decades, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a couple surges in recession periods. And so, yes, government employment was somewhat supporting the jobs numbers in the past couple of years because you were kind of rehiring at a rapid pace from the pandemic, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the big picture, you compare government employment to the 70s, and government employment was actually much lower as a share of the total than it had been in a long time. And so I think that's adding context, being fair is what I call it, making sure people get the full picture.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your thoughts. So let's call that good right there. I mean, you and I are going to come back and we're going to talk about tariffs, and we're going to talk about the reaction to the stock market.